What's going on, guys? And as you guys may or may not know, I was blessed enough to receive a backer version of Eiyuden Chronicle, or the beta backer version of Eiyuden Chronicle. And in today's video, I will be going over some of my hands-on impressions with Eiyuden Chronicle and my real, raw, and uncut thoughts on how this game is coming along and how it is turning out. Also, disclaimer, I will be only showing a limited amount of images and maybe the smallest amount of footage from my beta, and I will be showing trailer footage from the latest trailer because I want to respect Rabbit & Bear Studios' wishes to not spoil the game and to reveal too much before the game comes out next month for others who want to enjoy the game going in blindly. So keep all of that in mind. I will just be using pictures and talking over my experiences and my points. Be sure to leave me any questions that you may have for me down below, and I'll do my best to respond to them. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into some of my hands-on impressions and thoughts on Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, the backer beta version. So first thing first I want to talk about is the presentation and the visuals of this game. Simply put, Eiyuden Chronicle is absolutely beautiful. The 2.5D style works almost to perfection, and the character sprites are expressive, full of life, and just a joy to look at and be in. These environments and some of its backdrops sometimes just had me simply mesmerized, and I just found myself taking screenshot after screenshot after screenshot of how beautiful some of these backgrounds can be. I really love the little attention to details that Rabbit & Bear put into this game's visuals, and it makes the whole entire city and town just feel alive. You have the NPCs walking around, you have characters doing what they would do in their natural lives, you have these amazing camera angles and views of the game as you're going from town to town. Visually and presentation wise, Eiyuden Chronicle feels like a modern Suikoden, and that's exactly what we've all been looking for. A modern 2.5D Suikoden, I'm sorry. This is what we have been looking for. When you think of how you would have naturally liked to see the Suikoden games progress visually if they had stayed with the 2D style, this game is the manifestation of that desire. So between this and Star Ocean the Second Story R, I am absolutely loving the new sprite on 2.5D style that a lot of these JRPGs are going for, and I cannot get enough of it as it is becoming one of my favorite visual styles of JRPGs. Now, shout out to my awesome moderator, Eiyuden, for these amazing photos that you captured for me. Thank you so much. So we'll go ahead and jump right into the battle system, the meat of the game that everyone is probably worrying about or wondering about. And it's safe to say, guys, this is Suikoden modernized. It is the Suikoden formula almost perfected to a T in 2024. It is very reminiscent of Suikoden 1 and 2 with the way that the battle flows. Plus, there's an option to go auto battle in which you get tired of taking control of your own destiny, I guess. You can also choose to have the players or the characters do an auto battle for that specific turn, and you can just watch how things play out. I think that's a nice option for people who may not want to select every single option for their party members, as this can somewhat get maybe dull depending on the type of person that you are. I also truly enjoy the amount of customization and options that you have when it comes to Eiyuden's battle system. Character placement is very important, as some characters can only fight from a short range or a short distance, and other characters can fight from above the terrain or from far distance. It's going to be up to you to see how you want to personally customize your team and your team's layout. I love that the game gives you this strategic look at where to place certain characters and who is better where, and I think it adds just an incredible element to an already excellent battle system. As you guys can see at the top, there's somewhat of a timeline to see which characters will go at which turn, so this also adds another strategy element to the battle system. Perhaps one of my favorite things about the battle system so far are the terrain battles. Guys, the battles will change depending on the terrain, depending on what happens in some of the events of the battle. That is so cool. So let's just say, for example, some rock slide happen or something like this happen. It will then change the terrain of the battle that you're battling on. The field will change depending on some of the events from the battle, and then you will have to then edit your strategy depending on what happened. So these are called gimmick battles, and you can use these gimmicks as your advantage or perhaps your disadvantage if you don't use them well when you're fighting in boss battles and other things like that. I think that is an absolutely excellent addition to the 2.5D turn-based style of gameplay, and I love what Rabbit & Bear Studios did here with that. The combo team system is back, and dare I say it, I think it may even be better than some of the Suikoden team character attacks. I absolutely am feeling and loving the character combo attacks right now. They're very visually pleasing and they make a great impact to the battle, and it's nice seeing these characters interact in their own way, especially on the battlefield. Now, one con that I could have to this is the fact that there is no option to skip some of the animations, so it could get a little dull for certain people to rewatch the same team combo over and over and over again. For me, it works and it's cool, but I can definitely see this being a critique that the critics may pick up at some point, and fans alike. There's also rune lens in 7 slots, possibly more or less, but it seems to be 7 slots. Me and Duradan were still trying to figure that out. I absolutely am also loving the customization system when it comes to your party's gear and weapons and loadout. It's just a plethora of different options for you to take part in and enjoy and customize your party to the way that you would like them to be. There's so many options, and to be honest, I'm only about 5 hours still into the beta, so I have not explored all of these options. But if you're a fan of the Suikoden series, you will be satisfied with what you see here. As I said before, there's strategic placement of your party members, equipment status, just all sorts of cool things to get your hands into, but I won't spoil that for you. I'll let you guys get your hands on that for yourself. But rest assured, the battle system is an absolute check, guys, as this will be the meat of the game. You have nothing to worry about here. I'm sure you all will enjoy this battle system, especially if you love Suikoden 1 and 2's battle system. Now, as my good friend Duradan put it, this game literally feels like Suikoden 3.5. It is a perfect mixture of 2 and 3 with Miriyama's writing style and Junko's designs. It just feels absolutely awesome. So it's like a perfect blend of the Suikoden series as a whole, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I said again earlier, I really love the visual of how the towns are alive, the characters are doing something, and the camera angles adds these dynamic views to these towns. Speaking of the towns, every town so far has been a joy to visit and explore, and they just all feel alive. Yes, there are some recurring NPCs here and there. You'll see doubles of certain characters, but a lot of games do that. But at least Rabbit and Bear try to add that immersion of actually being in a town with living, breathing, and alive people. And that's just it. The towns feel alive, the towns feel like they have personality, and everything just makes it feel really great. Now, what are good visuals without good music? So far, Eiyuden Chronicle has impressed me thoroughly with some of its tracks. Speaking of the town tracks, I really enjoy the nice, cozy, somber nature of some of the town tracks. However, I will say there is a slight repetitive nature to it, as some towns seem to use the same theme. I don't know if that's going to be an issue for certain critics or reviewers or fans, but there have been some recurring themes in some towns. But it does not take away, because that town theme is a nice theme in general, and I've only encountered a couple towns that do that so far, so I don't know if that's going to be present within the whole game. But all I have to say is the music in Eiyuden Chronicle has actually really impressed me. I was not expecting it to be this good, especially when you think about Suikoden 1 and 2 soundtrack, which are absolute masterpieces in the scope of JRPG gaming. Eiyuden Chronicle holds its own pretty well. I've really been enjoying this music, and I think when I'm hearing this music, it makes me somewhat, I don't want to say emotional, but it makes me really feel the soul that Rabbit and Bear put into this game, and it just feels like a grand homecoming for so many Suikoden fans, and just a perfect send-off for Miriyama as well. Now, the voice acting is actually surprisingly well done in my opinion as well, but I can still see many people considering on using the Japanese options just because it may feel a little bit more natural and smoother to them. But the voice acting so far has been pretty good to me. I particularly enjoy Sang's voice a lot, and I think that I'm definitely going to keep the English dub on. That's just my preference, but the voice acting doesn't bother me too bad now, and if it eventually does, I will let you guys know, because I keep it real when it comes to this voice acting. But there's been nothing that's really bothered me so far, so I think the voice acting is a check, and I have been thoroughly enjoying it so far. So moving on, we're going to touch on the dungeon design and the overworld view of the game so far, and I have really been enjoying the dungeon layout. It feels nice to explore, it feels grand, and it's all beautifully well crafted. So I have been enjoying going through some of the dungeons in the game, as well as the world map and the overall view of the game. Like I said, Star Ocean: The Second Story R did a pretty good job with this as well, and Eiyuden Chronicle follows in like manner. I really enjoyed the overworld design of this game thus far, and the dungeon designs are compelling. I actually like going through the dungeons, unlike some JRPGs, and I can see myself having a great time trekking through some of these different terrains and environments as I'm progressing through the story. And oh boy, speaking of story, I can already see the tone of this game. It's going to start off lighthearted, pretty simple in nature, but boy, I can feel it picking up in classic Murayama style. This story will definitely be one to remember, as from what I've experienced so far. Yes, it's simple, but you could start to feel the tension rising, and you can see the seeds of where things may grow out of control. And I love stories like this that have a heavy impact and that have a hard meaning. I cannot wait to see this story progress and grow and get crazier and crazier and more meaningful. This story looks to be amazing. Another thing that I'm truly enjoying is the variety of characters and their personalities. Each character so far is vastly different than the other, and they all stand out in their own way. Francesca, when you know, you know. This girl is a bottle of you know what. I cannot wait till some of you guys get to meet Francesca, as she was probably my favorite character that I've ran into so far. I really like her whole theme as a healer fighter. Oh, Francesca is just awesome. I'm hoping I'm saying her name right. Like I said, I just met the character, so I don't know. But that is one thing that I am truly enjoying. I cannot wait to see what this game story leads us to, and I can already feel the tone of the story, from loving the villains, from loving the heroes, from even the NPCs. Everything is coming along nicely, and I cannot wait to play this story into its completion. I'm calling it now. I think this story will be one of the game's strongest strengths when it comes to reviewers and fans alike. That's just my personal observation as of right now. But obviously, I'm not going to say anything else on the story, because you guys need to experience that for yourselves. But I'm not going to keep things all rosy and rainbows. I will attempt to list some cons and some critiques I had of the beta, and critiques I'm sure that even the critics may pick up on. So first, starting off once again, you cannot skip those battle team combo animations, and that could get a little bit repetitive and maybe even redundant to some folks. But once again, this is entirely subjective, and you may just enjoy watching those team combo animations. This could vary from person to person. So there's still a couple of bugs and things out there. We also notice some pop-ups on grass and weeds here and there while you're on the world map, and sometimes the blur is a little bit too much in certain areas, and it just feels a little bit bright at times. Duerdan also pointed out that there's no sprint, just walk or jog, and that there's no HP and MP save pedestal that was featured in previous Suikoden games. So these are some kind of things that can kind of be considered critiques, and there's also not an option to sprint, which I do believe that there should definitely be an option to sprint. And Duerdan also pointed out that there's no outline of characters in the world or dungeons or towns, and the party conversation is quiet and it's at the bottom right. And I'll be honest as well, it is kind of easy to miss some of these party interactions. While I do love them, I wish maybe perhaps they were voiced by maybe a one word so that you would know that your characters are actually talking. But it's not too big of a deal for me, as this was also present in Star Ocean: The Second Story R. I keep comparing that game because they both remind me of each other a lot for some reason. So these are some of the critiques that I feel like should be fixed by the time that hopefully the game comes out. I can say on the visual level, the models do seem to be brightened out, and the contrast sometimes miss the mark. So while the game is beautiful and visually appealing, I did notice that sometimes the models are not meshing as well with the backgrounds because of some of that contrast and some of that brightness. The invisible borders also could be a potential immersion breaking thing, as you don't run all the way in. You just sometimes kind of just swallow there. So I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe that's just a beta thing. But other than that,
Most of those are just little nitpicks on my part and me trying to stay balanced and fair about this game, as I'm not going to call it a perfect game, but Suikoden fans and guys and new JRPG fans alike, this game is an absolute treat waiting for us. I cannot wait for this game, and it has now went from my most anticipated game of 2024 to my most anticipated game, even more so, of 2024. This game is absolutely phenomenal, and I cannot wait to get my full hands on it when it finally comes out in April next month. Guys, I could not be more excited. Even with some of those critiques and cons, I still think that this game is going to score very well, and I'd be surprised if we don't bring in a lot of new Eiyuden fans and Suikoden fans to this genre style of JRPG gameplay. I cannot wait for you guys to get your hands on this game as well. Suikoden fans, we are in good hands. Miriyama and his team did the darn thing. This game will absolutely be phenomenal, and you can rest well knowing that it is not a disaster. Only one more month left.
Thank you guys for supporting the channel and the content. Be sure to hit that like button down below. God bless every single one of you, and I'll see you guys for release date. Bye bye. So hype.